Have you guys heard of Matt Miller? He's not only the guy who paints those amazing portraits of all your favorite heroes in the Liberty Movement and in pop culture, but he's also now an official sponsor of this show. From Murray Rothbard to Ron Paul, Dr. Robert Malone to Darth Maul, Matt Miller's Liberty Portraits has something fun for everyone to spice up your home or office and showcase your heroes. Go check out his incredible work at libertyportraits.com. Grab a print to impress your friends, hire him for a custom portrait, or bring him out to a festival to capture your event in real life in a beautiful and unique way. To find out more, just head over to libertyportraits.com. Once again, that is libertyportraits.com. Today's show is sponsored by libertarian conspiratorial fantasy author Jack Casey. Whether you're looking for a 3-book fantasy sci-fi epic of love, death, and dystopian civil war like the Royal Green series, or just looking for a quick, dark, comedic cultural commentary tale about a transsexual slayer of COVID regime vampires, like his latest book, WVW, Jack Casey Books will keep you adequately entertained and pondering the universe to your weird little heart's content. He's the Ayn Rand meets Stephanie Meyer meets somebody who actually writes entertaining books with his own unique little downer-esque flair. Find out more about Jack Casey Books at the aptly named jackcaseybooks.com. Once again, that is jackcaseybooks.com. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the least comfortable show on the web. It's The System is Down, where we talk about all the uncomfortable topics like conspiracies, politics, religion, and whenever your friends go off the rails and they go on these like mad tirades of I don't even remember all the allegations. There were so many to pick from. But that's the place that you're at. Welcome back. It's another Wednesday, and we're going to get into it, but we do have to do all the pleasantries. Of course, I got to give shout-outs to my first favorite and foremost sponsor, which is, of course, you guys in the Downers Club. People like Justico Mitchell, Silas Lane, Denise Cox, Nolan something, James something, Matthew Walrus, Danielle, Tom, Patrick, Catholic, Break the Bell Pod, whoever that is, Heflums, Woozles, Level Zero. I don't see Marc Clair on this list. That seems strange. John Odermatt, Brian McWilliams, Mary Rome, Justin Zelinsky, and other people with money. Other people who are not currently fighting IRS battles. They have the balls to come and sponsor this show and put their name on it. If you would like to get your name in that list and probably, possibly, maybe one day have it read incorrectly out loud on an episode of this show, go on over to patreon.com/The System is Down and sign up for the Downers Club, where you'll get more weird, more raw, more offensive, more weekly content, bonus episodes of the show, including the after parties, which will be happening today, whether it is with a guest or not. It happens. It always happens. So if you want more weird stuff, usually space is fake and gay stuff, check that out in the Downers Club at patreon.com/The System is Down. All right, so we're going to roll this intro. You're going to go out and share it with your friends. I know that I say that every week, and you pretend like you're going to, and then I never see it shared by any of you. So just know that I'm watching. I can see the likes here. I can see the retweets later. So it's up to you. I know if you're a good friend or a bad friend. I'm just kidding. None of you are my friends. All right, go share the show. We're going to roll the intro, and we'll be right back. Let's get weird.
All I ask is, if we have to give these bastards our lives, we give them hell before we do!
The tragedy of our day is the climate of fear in which we live.
Talking about the Salomon Brothers building collapsing.
I would ask the congressman to withdraw that comment and tell us that he didn't really mean that.
Half the stuff is what I call activist.
I don't know what I said. I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
The Bible commands that certain people be put to death.
Thieves were possessing weapons of mass destruction. 9/11 attacks were carried out by Al-Qaeda.
Handle the truth! I remember that with that smoke! We are still here!
We have to say yes to socialism.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
It's a big old club, and you There's the right button. It's a big club and you ain't in it. Welcome back to the show. Here on the Wednesday shows, if you're not familiar, I know you are, but if you're not, this is where we talk about the news. We talk about everything that's going on in the world. We look outside the window, watch it burn, and we share a good old laugh about it together. Because as the world burns, why not? What do you got left? What do you got left to lose? Anyway, we're going to do that again today, and I don't like to do it alone. So whenever I am able to find just some old scoundrel off the streets who has no podcast and no name and no like legacy or anything, I'm like, hey, buddy, come on and let's talk about the news. So today I'm joined by the one and the only Mr. Marc Clair of Substack.
Of Substack.com and Second Print Comics. And should I just say it before I say it on my own show? And the soon-to-be-coming Marc Clair show. So stay tuned. It's been officially announced here.
Yes, your audio is really shitty. It's cutting out.
That's weird.
Yeah. Do you want to jump out and jump back in again? I'll stall for a second.
Sure. I'm hardwired in, too. My internet should be perfect.
Yeah.
I'll leave.
All right. Marc Clair, ladies and gentlemen. All right. That was fun. So we'll get this in order. We do have a lot to talk about today, and we are on a tight schedule. So I'm definitely going to keep this short and sweet, as I always do. Marc Clair, are you there?
I hope so.
Marc Clair on the line,
sound
everyone.
here?
Yes, Marc Clair, yay.
Take it from the top.
Of the Marc Clair Show, I hear.
And at Second Print Pod everywhere for comic book talk. marcclair.substack.com for written versions of thoughts and random shows for guest appearances like this one. That's where you can find me.
Nice. I like it. And yeah, you've been on this show many times. It's been a while. Like you and Brian both came on a lot back in the day, and then we got
bored with it, or you got bored of us.
We got bored with each other. We drifted apart as relationships do. But we've been seeing a lot of each other lately. I was on your show last week. Brian was on my show last week. I was on your show last night. I was on Brian's show last night, and now you're on my show. So making up for lost time.
And none of these took place in any kind of order that you're talking about. So it's the podcast time warp.
That's correct, unless you live in the behind-the-scenes timeline. But Marc, for the people that aren't familiar with like where you're at now, maybe they've seen a little bit of the controversies of some of the rumblings on the Twitter sphere about you. Do you want to give people the rundown of you and what's going on these days?
Sure. Well, as many of you may or may not know, I did run into some trouble with the IRS and various other government agencies. That's why I fled to Mexico last year. And then in Mexico, I got in trouble with the cartels. So it's like, where do I go? But the truth is none of that's true. And I appreciate the concern. But I don't know. It's one of those jokes where I thought it was obviously a joke, but other people didn't think it was obviously a joke, or were at least confused enough or thought there was enough truth in it to reach out and say something. So I did have a number of people kind of hilariously reach out to me and ask if everything was okay. I guess it's not funny to make people concerned about you.
I like how they're like, Dan, this ain't it. You suck at acting. But then they still kind of seem like they're not sure if it's a joke or not. It's like, well, you've disproven yourself.
Yeah, we're not buying this shit at all, buddy. But that being said, if
why are you being so mean to Marc?
Let him know that we want to send him help.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, no, in reality, we sort of created a fake controversy that turned into more of a fake controversy than I think anybody intended in the beginning. It was just supposed to be the little video, the behind the scenes shocking Marc Clair exposed video. And then I got a little case of the Cougars and just didn't feel like doing the real life episode, the real actual episode where I was going to explain to my audience of nearly 9 years why I was leaving the podcast that I founded.
So I did it for you.
And then it said Dan did it for me.
I just explained why you had to leave.
And left out some details and added some others.
I embellished.
And then I made up for it by doing the actual episode this past week. So that's where we're at right now. But the truth is, I think for the last couple of years, I've been, not just getting burned out on politics, but also it's not like they're new interests, but I think a lot of my previous areas of interest seem more important now than they did maybe a few years ago. When I see people still sort of walking around the world thinking, oh yeah, remember 2 years ago when a virus was accidentally released and everybody did their best to try to make it work, including a lot of libertarians that seem to think that way, that I think some work needs to be done, because I think there's a certain amount that you need to be able to understand the world that we live in and the reality that we live in to properly navigate it. And that's kind of the theme that I want to explore with my new venture. It's really just navigating our reality, and part of that is going to be looking at sort of the spiritual level of that, the religious level. Part of that's going to be looking at more of the material end of things, how to improve your own situation, and how do you deal with what's going on in the world. But I think too many people, libertarians and otherwise, are living in a fantasy land where a bunch of dumbo government guys are just fumbling around making mistakes left and right. And I'm sorry, if you can believe that after the last 2.5 years, then you need the kind of wake-up call that I plan to deliver.
So what you're saying is you're going a different route with this whole new honesty thing.
Yeah, something like that, I guess.
No, I agree with you. And I've had some people have some long conversations with me about how they're definitely sure 100% that you are a Fed. How do you feel about these allegations? And they're not
That
joking.
I'm a Fed.
Yep. Because you started with the anti-Mises Caucus tirade, and then you moved on to this leaving liberty is what it sounds like to some
Leaving
people.
lost liberty.
Yep.
I'm flattered. I'm flattered, if anything, but I would think that I would be influential enough or important enough to be recruited by the Feds. I would be flattered to be a Fed.
And they let you keep the hair even. Like they didn't make you get the crew cut.
Yeah. No, they let me. I need to keep it for the cover. But no, I mean, I've been wanting to be recruited. That's why I got into this whole podcast thing. I figured if I get big enough, I'll be recruited by the Feds. So, but then again, is this what I would say if I was a Fed anyway? So I guess we'll just always have to wonder.
Yeah, it's kind of like Alex Jones when he turned into Alex Jones from Bill Hicks.
If you think I'm a Fed, invite me on your podcast and debate me about it. And if you don't have a podcast, then what kind of libertarian or who are you anyway? You know?
Right. If you think I'm a Fed, meet me at this address and bring friends and be ready to storm the Capitol. I'm not a Fed, though.
A duffel bag of money.
Right. Anyway.
And drugs.
We're going to talk about some news because this is the place where we do that. Now, we do like to start out with the good news. And there's some very good news in the world today. I'll give you first dibs, Mark. You don't have to have anything, but is there anything in the world that you think is good news?
Anything that is good news?
Just anything at all, other than you getting fired from Lands of Liberty.
Yeah, I'm above ground, so today is a good day. That's good news.
Well, I've got even better news than that.
It's not a Hollow Earth reference at all, by the way.
Right. Well, I mean, if it was, it would be better to be below because that'd be fucking cool. You get to see
maybe
like
it's
King
a bad
Kong
day.
and
Maybe
Godzilla.
It sucks. Why am I not below ground, hanging out with Bigfoot and unicorns and shit? It's depressing. Now I'm upset.
Yep. Any day above ground is a day that I wish I wasn't. That's not as depressing as it sounds.
In the Hollow Earth.
That's right. Anyway, my good news for the day is it comes from our neighbors to the north, Canada. Justin Trudeau announced that they've got a new project that they're working on. Let's just hear it from him.
Since day one, our government has been committed to protecting the rights of two-spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, and additional sexuality and gender diverse people.
Got it.
That's why I'm so excited.
Did you make that into an acronym?
To announce a historic first, the launch of Canada's first ever 2S LGBTQI plus.
Oh, you can.
Hold on, what was that again? 2XL CBGBI plus? What was that?
That is a very safe password to use for any of your social media.
Canada is like a parody of a woke country at this point.
Right. This is something that Babylon Bee would have put out like 2 months ago, and it would have been hilarious.
What was
Absolutely.
that acronym again?
2S LGBTQI plus. They even left out even in the title of their own video, they forgot the I. So even they can't get it right on their own damn video where they're announcing this absurdity.
I like how no matter how many letters and numbers, you still have to add the plus in case you left anything out.
Right. Exactly. Let me find. I lost my spot here.
Takers of the land, tous mes amis collègues.
Oh, he does this whole speech. He does this. That's another thing. He does this entire speech where he goes back and forth between English and French, and it's like he gives like a paragraph in English, then a paragraph in French. I don't even know if they're the same, but it makes this speech. I watched the whole thing. It's like 10 minutes long, but apparently it's only like 5 minutes long, and he says literally nothing in it. But they're going to spend $100 million on this plan to fight 2S LGBTQI plus discrimination. I'm not sure how that works.
That is the most specific discrimination I've ever heard of. Like,
Right.
you have to do a lot of time, effort, and research to discriminate against that specific of a group, I would think.
Absolutely.
Geneviève, merci.
Oh, God. Okay. Let's get back to English.
Verna, thank you for those words of welcome onto traditional territory.
Let's not gloss over
so
the name
important,
Verna.
Right.
Recognize the caretakers of the land, past, present, and future. Geneviève, merci pour tout ton leadership.
Come on.
Merci à tous mes amis collègues ici.
Well, that's
Come
not the
on.
same paragraph.
Il y a du gros travail à faire et Marcy, je suis tellement content que tu sois là pour,
Does everybody in
pour le
Canada
faire.
speak both French and English? Because if he's not saying the same thing both times, then is he giving two different speeches based on the demographic?
Why does his French sound like Arabic to me?
I don't know.
It could be my cultural ignorance, but
That's very
could be
possible.
something else.
To begin with, I just want to take a moment alongside all Canadians right now, the devastating impact that these are having on people across the country.
Is he talking about an asteroid now?
It's something we're all watching with.
Oh, probably
sorrow,
climate change.
Justin
support.
Trudeau
Canada,
in
will continue to
devastating
provide support through the UN and through the Red
I can't even
Cross.
find
Comme
a
tant
spot.
Canadien.
We estimate this asteroid will kill 300,332 lesbians. And that's why we have to stop it.
Right. Let me. I do have a timestamp link here. Let me pull that back up so we can actually find the stupid thing. Because I did like the whole. It's hilarious because Canada is like Jordan Peterson got in trouble because he didn't want to use certain pronouns. He didn't want to just go along with the things that you are legally required to say in these areas. But they keep making their own jobs more difficult as they add on a new letter, add on, like, we're into numbers now. We've got punctuation in your algorithm.
I saw a pound sign in there.
Right. In your algorithm of a freaking movement. Like, also, two-spirit. Have you heard of this two-spirit concept, Mark?
No, I mean today, but not before. Can you explain?
Two-spirit, to my understanding, is like some Native American thing that dates way back to probably 20 years ago or something, where they're like, well, people are transgender because some people have two spirits within them, which means that they are, I don't know, they're bipolar, but they're not,
Like
or
a two-face
whatever.
thing?
Yeah, I guess, like, they have different personalities inside them. And because the Native Americans believed it, I don't think this is documented back that far even, but they're using it as, see, that means transgender people exist. And it's like, oh, fine, but okay. What does that have to do with sexuality or gender, though? Like, how do you know that the two spirits aren't both female or both male? What are you talking about? Any thoughts, Mark?
I think I have two spirits within me.
How does your Mexican wife feel about two spirits?
I mean, I don't want to presume how she feels. I don't want to speak for a woman.
It'd be
But I haven't
toxic
spoke-
masculine.
I've never gotten her opinion on the two spirits concept. To be honest.
Well, get back to me.
My wife is very much into like new age stuff, and then I like as I try to bring in more rational things, she's like, "Oh yeah, well that is kind of dumb, I guess." So then we meet somewhere in the middle where she still has the sort of the knowledge about it for me, and I have the bring this back down to earth.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm sure they would think it sounds cool until I explained it in the context of Justin Trudeau, and then she would think it was stupid.
Yeah, as soon as you put Justin Trudeau into any movement, it kind of makes it really like it somehow Justin Trudeau being like the face of the 2S LGBTQI plus movement makes it even gayer than it already was. But going back, like, I can't find the link, so we're going to move on. But going back to, this isn't the first time Justin Trudeau has had this issue. Even when it was a little bit simpler, he said this.
I will never apologize for standing up for an LGBTQ2+.
So,
Two plus.
I don't know.
God.
I've lost count, but there used to
This
be
is
like
gonna
an
get
A and
fun.
an I
This is
too.
we're in the part of wokeness where it's starting to have become so ridiculous in every aspect that it's tripping over itself constantly.
Right.
So I think we're in the I don't want to say the downfall of it. I think there's more woke to come, but it's getting to the point where we can almost I don't know. It's starting to seem less scary and more just this is absurd.
Less scary and more parody.
Let's watch it burn down. Yeah.
Right. It makes me more white pilled as it gets more ridiculous because more people like there's only so far you can push normal people in going along with your whatever it is. Like I don't care if you're gay or any of these this algorithm of letters.
I think we know as libertarians you can only push normies so far.
Exactly.
Before they're like, all right, we're not. Yeah, no, not doing.
We can't go along on the Meghan McCain thing. Sorry.
You're like legalize weed. They're like, yeah, and you're like legalize heroin. They're like, whoa,
right.
Slow down. We're normies still.
What's next? Asking for a license to cook toast in your damn toaster? You know the normal questions that normal people are asking. That's what we libertarians ask. Anyway, the moving on to Dr. Fauci. He was back in the news today because no matter how many times he says he's going to go away, he's still here and he's still doing the thing that he does so well, which is saying just truth, only truth, always truth. And today's truth is about his concern with attacks on him for this COVID mania that people are making up.
Do you have insight into what we ought to do to protect public officials like yourself and to try to be more rational about this stuff as a country?
You know, Rachel, I wish I did have a positive, constructive answer for you, but I don't. I think you and I are talking about public health issues right now. But what has spilled over and really in many respects impeded a proper response to a public health challenge is something that we see that goes well beyond public health. It's a complete distortion of reality. I mean, a world of where untruths have almost become normalized, how we can see something in front of our very eyes and deny it's happening. I mean,
it's like he just said the same thing 3 times, and if he had stopped at the first one, I'd be like, oh, that's a little bit hypocritical. But then he repeats it and drives it home, believing things that you're not believing things that you can see in front of your own eyes, like data and science and, you know, scary things like January 6th, which is what he's about to get into.
That's the environment we're living in. You could look at January 6th on TV, and you have some people who actually don't believe it happened. How could that possibly be?
It was on
now
TV.
Spilling over in denial about public health principles. So,
anyway, yeah, I thought that was.
I love his argument that it was on TV. So how could you not believe what the TV told you?
Mm-hmm.
I'm on TV, so you know I'm legit. Ergo, these other people on the TV also. How did they get on the TV if they didn't know what they were talking about? Is
right.
Essentially the argument here.
Yeah, it's the same as the Brian Stelter narrative of we are the truth. You come to us when you want to find out how wrong Joe Rogan is. Stop going to Joe Rogan for your science. He's just a dummy. Come to Brian Stelter. It's like pushing this whole narrative of keep going back to the TV. Keep trusting the dinosaurs to tell you the truth, no matter what you see in front of your eyes. And this like gaslighting technique of saying the only reason people don't believe me is because they're not believing what's right in front of their faces. It's like, right, that's it. Mm-hmm.
Which pretty much just sums up the 2.5 years of COVID too. I mean, if you weren't looking at the TV, but you were actually looking at the data, actually looking at the numbers, actually looking at who's dying, then you wouldn't believe who's on TV. So the whole thing is quite fun.
Right. Quite interesting, to say the least. And speaking of COVID, Omicron boosters are a thing now. They're coming. They're coming. Unfortunately, they haven't been, tested on people. But here's some things you need to know.
Neither were the last ones, pretty much.
Right. I don't know about you, Mark,
Isn't
but
Omicron so fucking weak? Isn't that the whole thing of Omicron?
Weak.
Is that it's so weak that
It's
you
like the
barely
weakest
feel
virus.
it?
Yeah. Yeah, and in this article, they talk about how they're concerned because, flu season is coming back where it's going to be cold and people will be indoors. So Omicron is more likely to affect these people, and that'll be dangerous because the vaccine is what keeps people out of the hospitals for things during flu season that definitely aren't the flu.
It's pretty funny because, when my wife and I got the coup the other week, and, her mom was she's not a crazy vaccine person. She's just, I wanted to take the vaccine. I respect your opinion not to, so it's all good on that. But when we got it, we were like, she was nervous to tell her mom because she didn't want her mom to be like, see, I told you should have taken the vaccine. Meanwhile, she found out her mom and dad got sick, but she was vaccinated, and she was nervous to tell my wife because she didn't want my wife to be like, hi, I told you not to take the vaccine. So, but to me, that still proves not the vaccine route because we both got COVID, and they were actually really sick, and we weren't.
Right. It proves, at best, the vaccine did nothing that you got, nothing that your own immunity didn't seem to do pretty well. Now, I'm not giving any medical advice, but
no,
I would never say that the vaccine doesn't work.
I would never say yes, you should get sun and exercise, and that will put you in a better
would be
position
reckless.
to fight off viruses and that sort of thing. If viruses are real, I would never say that.
Right.
I might postulate, but I would never say it.
Going out and getting exercise might also cause other side effects such as losing weight, which we all know is unhealthy as well.
And making friends, potentially. There's a lot of potential things that can go wrong.
It's dangerous out there. Let's read a little bit of this. This comes from time.com, so you know it's legit. With nearly all the new COVID-19 infections in the U.S. coming from the Omicron whatever subvariants, it makes sense that health officials are considering switching to a different vaccine to protect the public. Now, this talks about, with fall and winter fast approaching, the seasons when respiratory viruses like SARS-CoV-2 or like colds.
Or like every cold and flu every year.
Right.
Yeah. For all the
spread
time.
even more efficiently, which is a thing that hasn't existed before like 2 years ago. So, I mean, we don't have, that's not that tested. Just the fact that they're going straight to things spread during winter. People get sick and they die from COVID. Like, that's always been a thing.
How does anything you do stay on YouTube?
I have no idea. Shut up.
They just don't know about you yet.
Oh, I've been kicked off multiple times, but I lay low long enough that they forget, apparently.
That strategy does seem to work, actually.
Dear robots.
They give you a strike, you like relax for a couple weeks, and then you come back, and then we repeat the process.
Yeah, I don't know, but this will probably be it now that you mention it. Thanks. And that includes considering safety and efficacy data from animals, not people. So they've tested it on animals. They have not tested it on people. There are some doctors who have expressed some concern with this because they don't want to rush it out. I mean, seems pretty reasonable. And then other doctors are saying, the other vaccine worked, and this is pretty similar. It's got a lot of the same components that have been tested, so let's just push it through. And they say that it's because they're behind on the variants, is the way I understand this. They're concerned that they're putting these vaccines out too late because like the variants have already moved on by the time they get these through the proper channels.
Ooh, idea. Then don't put them out.
Bingo. So, so I don't. They say that as though their biggest concern is they need to get ahead of these and stop testing them so that they can keep you safer. I think more so that they can keep you thinking that these still have value. They don't make nearly as much money when people aren't buying the old, outdated vaccine for this unfashionable old virus.
Not even people. I mean, almost all these vaccines are paid for by governments or insurance that's mandated to pay for it by governments. I mean, that's part of this thing too.
But people still have to get them.
The normies just say
outdated,
free vaccines. Free vaccines are great. Right. We'll go get them. They're free, right? So why not? Why not stick this thing in my arm that's free that the government's mandating for me and threatening my life with?
Yeah, threatening my job if I don't get it. And but I'm kind of sad that they stopped giving out the perks because that was my favorite thing to report on. The donuts, they gave out beer. They had like a raffle for like $1 million. Your vaccine's really good when you have to like bribe people with $1 million raffle. And even one pot shop was like giving out free joints if you got your vaccine. It's like, yes.
Do you think anybody got fake COVID vaccine things just to get a free donut and a free joint, but not wanting the vaccine?
I would have done it for a free joint. I wouldn't go out of my way to that extent to get a free donut. I'm not that poor, but some people are, I'm sure. I'm sure some people just got the vaccine for the free donut, which I think is worse than going out of your way to get a fake vaccine card to get a free donut. But you gotta weigh your pros and cons and your risk reward analysis.
I'm not that much of a donut guy anyway, so
I'm not either.
Which is why I defeated the coup easily.
Yep. Now, despite, we've had like all these updates. The CDC has now said that it is, and this might be why I'm not getting kicked off of YouTube right now, is because the CDC has updated all their stuff and said basically there's no what's the wording? Anything that applies to the vaccinated applies to the unvaccinated. Basically, there's no
no difference.
Yeah, basically, there's no different standards or expectations from you as far as like going out in public, wearing masks or anything like that. So.
Yeah, now it's like you don't even need to test. Like for kids going to school, at least I hear, if you get COVID or you're positive for COVID, you don't even need to test negative to come back. You just wait 5 days. 5 days out from the positive, and you're fine. Doesn't even matter. If you could, they don't even care if you test negative.
Yeah, which don't get us wrong, we're perfectly fine with that, and think that that's the way it should always be. If your kid seems healthy, he's probably healthy, and he can probably go to school. But yeah, just the hypocrisy of it. And speaking of schools, that's a great, beautiful segue there, Mark. Thank you. The next article or the next story here is from this school that kicked out a 4-year-old with a mental like learning disability or something, like had some mental issues. So not like neurotypical child even. 4-year-old, they kicked him out and called the police on him for not wearing a mask. Here's what happened.
I'm sorry, he's not able to come unless he has his mask on. I welcome him here, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I want him here, but it is our district's policy that students have to wear masks.
Where is this?
This is in Bay County.
Does he notice? Here she comes, pulling him out of class.
Where's Bay County?
Great question. We'll check in a second. I think it's somewhere in California. But
Are there a lot of Bay Counties? Yeah.
Probably.
He is a lovely child. We're here to support and serve him. Our district's policy has changed. I am here to serve all students on our campus. We cannot keep spending time on the same issue.
Thank you.
I'm going to have you removed from campus.
Okay.
You don't leave at this
Okay.
You will. Be careful.
Okay. All right. Police officer called the police officer to remove a 4-year-old from campus.
The school district has decided on independently because, from what I understand, is
the cop was holding a beer at first.
within their school district has increased.
Yeah.
So they're basing that decision. And you know, I can't say like what they're doing is wrong, and I can't say what you're doing is wrong. And honestly, like both sides
couldn't say that.
No.
have valid points.
Yeah.
Both sides have valid
I'm
points.
just gonna make sure
the rules are the rules.
As a campus,
So we called the cops on your 4-year-old.
That kids get their education and that's.
There are good people on both sides
you
of the
seem like a
calling
good
cops
dude,
on
you seem
4-year-olds
good
argument.
father, and
That's right.
so,
I'm sure they mean well.
But not the pro-maskers. They should be condemned totally. No, she called the cop on him, and at the end here, the cop even says something like, "Oh, you seem like a really good dude, a really nice dad." Like, pandering. It's like, like the dad, if anything, wasn't pissed off enough at this point. His son had the cops called on him to remove him from a public school for a completely arbitrary mask mandate for children.
What was in the letter? Is she saying your son can't come in here without a mask?
Probably. Get your kid out of here. Yeah. So
at some point, it's on the people still sending the kids to the places that are having these rules in the first place. But I commend him for sending his kid without the mask and not actually ever caving into the rule.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine that, I mean, we're in the year 2022 now. How long did the kid wear a mask at school before they said, yeah, you don't have to wear your mask at school? Go in there and get arrested, kid. I don't know. I mean, there's some backstory to this that I'm curious about, but you're right about, like,
it is weird to see the story now. Well, he's 4, so he probably didn't go to any school until now.
Oh, true. That's probably true.
So, yeah.
So, yeah, it is weird that that you would still be sending your kid to a public school that required masks at this point, let alone, like, once your kid is physically removed from the school by a police officer for this bullshit, are you really sending your kid back there for anything? Like, do you trust these people to teach your kid?
So there are still places in the U.S. where kids are required to wear masks to go to school.
Well,
apparently.
Funny you ask, because not anymore. Bay County School District rescinds mask mandate. You're really setting these up. I appreciate it.
That's why I'm professional.
It almost seems like we planned this. It's way more professional than any Lions of Liberty show I've ever heard.
That's true. Yeah, because you do research and prepare.
Yeah, no. I read headlines, and you set them up nicely.
Ready. That's more than I've ever done.
True. Bay County or Bay Area School District rescinds mask mandate after sending 4-year-old home for not having masks. So they took it back. Obviously, I mean, they didn't want to, I'm sure. They just did it for the PR and all that shit. But I don't know. Like, especially like when the CDC says it's fine, you know it's been fine for at least 2 years. So what are you still doing anyway?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. At some point, you just have to like stop complying with a dumb rule. I get. Not everybody's going to be like this Ancapistan libertarian, pull all your kids out of school, homeschool everybody, and I'm not saying that works for everybody or at all. But when there's such a blatant, egregious thing still going on now, to even entertain it is just at some point it's like. How much was the dad playing along to this point? Maybe he, again, just started school, but you knew the rule. I don't know. I mean, I don't judge people's individual situations, but it seems weird that he'd be surprised by it. Like, he had to have known the rule before sending the kid there, you know?
Did he send his... I mean, it's also like the beginning of the school year. So did he send his kid in the first day and be like I can kind of see it where maybe he was like, yeah, it says that, or maybe he didn't even know that they had that still, because common sense would denote that they don't still have mask mandates at your school. I don't know, giving benefit of the doubt, but you would think that he would have seen something in paperwork or something, and he would have at least been like, hey, are you guys serious about this? But, I mean, at the very least, he sent his kid as a protest.
Yeah, I'm glad it came to calling the cops instead of it came to the dad just said, put this mask on. Screw it. Go to school. So
that's true.
I think that's still the better outcome. And I guess resulted in the whole mask mandate being lifted in that area. So go dad, you know.
Yeah, and for all we know, like, I would like to believe the best of this man, and maybe he was like, yeah, they're probably going to have a problem with this, and so he mentally prepared his son and said, we're not doing this. I will come get you if there's a problem, but here you go. Like, that's probably what I would have done at that point. And just to like test the waters, and hey, it got a way better outcome than if he had put on a mask put a mask on his kid and traumatized him in that way for the next 5 years. That's better than, mentally preparing him for the outcome here and then having the result be, nobody has to wear masks now. So good on.
Like, what would happen if the dad didn't show up? Would the cop have
cuffed
this 4-year-old kid and escorted him to a cell and read him his rights that he wouldn't even understand? Like,
probably, if we're being realistic, yeah, most likely. Speaking of schools and children in schools, you heard about the Uvalde school shooting a while back, right?
Yeah, I heard about the school shooting.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few of them, so I get them mixed up personally. This is the one where the cops all stood outside. Well, but
you mean the one that was coincidentally in the same town that Matthew McConaughey has coincidentally been making sort of words, aspirations, references towards political ambitions, and very conveniently had a nice speech scheduled for him shortly thereafter about gun control? That one? Is that the one? Or am I confused?
It sounds right, but I didn't know that, so please go on.
Oh, you didn't know that? No,
I
Matthew
didn't know
McConaughey is from Uvalde, and I'm sure. Did you see that he gave this speech at the White House like 2 days after this happened?
I heard about it. I don't think I saw the speech.
So Matthew McConaughey is playing the role of tough guy Texan, blah blah blah, but common sense guy. So the tough guys can still listen to him because hey, he's Matthew McConaughey.
Right.
So he's the one coming in like, look, I'm a Texan. I love guns. I believe in self-defense, but we got to have the common sense because look what happened in my hometown. All right.
That's right.
So,
no common sense there.
I don't believe any of this is a coincidence.
Right. Well, it's funny. It's like pushing for common sense while the cops stand outside and let kids get shot. So you want to talk about common sense gun laws? How about if you've got the gun, you better get your ass in there and save those kids.
What about
piece of shit?
Common sense cop laws?
Right. Yeah, there's certain standards like, save people when you're around. You had one job, and all you did was, lock people up for COVID. Anyway, update on the Uvalde school situation. So the police chief, Pete Arredondo, resigned from city council. Did you hear about this, Mark?
I heard that he was going to get like that he was going to get removed. So maybe he just beat it to the punch.
Well, it's interesting, and I'm not a smart man. I'm
or he's
hoping
resigning from the city council, and maybe that's a separate position from still being the chief police.
Oh,
I don't know local
that
government
could be
politics.
I'll be honest with you. I pulled this up. This was from July 2nd, and I read the headline too quickly because I saw this headline from July 2nd, and then I saw this current headline of Uvalde School Board fires police chief Arredondo after mass shooting response.
There we go.
So the school board fired him, and this was city council. So
correct.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not going to come to these city council meetings, but we're still cool if I'll run the whole cop thing, right?
Yeah. Yep. I can still like, shoot dogs and
I
shit.
can still not shoot people that are shooting people, right?
Right. Yeah. So not much story there other than good. He got fired. How did it take this long for them to realize that he wasn't doing his job well after that kind of situation? But hey, it is what it is. You got anything else on that, Mark?
All right. Did Matthew McConaughey comment on this or no?
I couldn't tell you. You're the Matthew McConaughey liaison.
Can I be your official Matthew McConaughey beat reporter?
Yes,
he
correspondent.
You bring me on for like a 10-minute segment.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. McConaughey, Claire.
I don't know what it is. I do have I don't want to say special connection to Matthew McConaughey. I had a dream like a year ago, maybe a year ago, a little more, that I interviewed Matthew McConaughey. And ever since then, I've had this weird feeling about him.
If he would come on my show, can I really trust him?
He would never. Yeah, exactly. Whenever I see him on TV now, because now he's always in the headlines for like flirting with running for governor, going to the White House. It's just came out after that book. So obviously, to me, that book was meant to launch his political career. And since then, he's been making many sort of references to politics, making a commentary on political things, getting a speech at the White House. This is my 1A draft pick for who they're going to bring in to be like the anti-woke but like strong man.
Right. So like an anti-Trump.
Win over those like conservative guys that just think he's fucking cool because they're idiots.
Do you think it'll be as soon as 2024 and he'll run the
It seems a little
anti-Trump
soon.
show?
It feels more like a 2028 thing. I think Trump is going to suck the wind out of 2024, even if he's not running.
Yeah.
Because the story is still around Trump either way.
Yeah. It's true. By 2028, do you think we'll have The Rock running for the D and Matthew McConaughey running for R, and the whole thing will just be a straight Hollywood, creation?
No,
at that
Rock
point?
is 32. They've already played that out for us in the show Young Rock, where The Rock plays the Rock of the future who runs for president in 2032 and does a series of PR interviews where he reflects on his past as Young Rock. But they set that in 2032, and so I believe the predictive programming. I'm going to stick with their number there.
This is why you're here, Mark. This is why you should have left Lions Liberty and came over here a long time ago.
Yeah, when we stop talking about politics, I know a thing or two.
Suddenly you're interested again. Now
I'm interested and interesting. At least one of those.
We do have some comments. I didn't mention, if you have a super chat, we're not allowed to take them. So put fake super chat in all caps if you want me to read them. Otherwise, I might read them and probably won't read them. And I still might not, but I might. Anyway, David Bradley says the name of
Brady.
Shh.
Jeez, do I have to do everything on this episode?
Don't correct it. It's Bradley. The name of the Minneapolis police chief during George Floyd was also an Arredondo or something similar for a last name. You got the conspiracy scoop on that one too, Mark?
I don't have the conspiracy on this one, but I'm sure it is one.
Probably. Joey Two Guns.
All the Arredondos, listen, all the Hispanics know each other, so yeah, there's a conspiracy. Why am I whispering?
I mean,
my wife doesn't hear me.
As somebody who's running from the police in Mexico, is Arredondo a Smith down there? Is that?
I don't think it's as common as a Smith.
All right.
That would be like a Sanchez or a
Gotcha.
Gomez type thing.
Mm-hmm. Joey Two Gun says, update, the people that died are still dead and the police should be considered armed and dangerous co-conspirators.
Look at Joey Blue Pills over here thinks people died. Just kidding. People might have died. That part I'm not sure of.
So you're like,
I'm about to
hey,
get Alex Jones treatment.
yeah, I was gonna say you're like, how are you still on YouTube? And then you're like, nobody died, and come, sue this man for entertaining these things.
I'm playing a character, Marc Clair.
Right,
Yeah.
Dark
like
Clair.
Hulk Hogan when he said the N-word.
Right.
Do you get that reference?
I don't. I know who Hulk Hogan is.
That was part of his defense. You don't know Hulk? No, that's.
I said I know who Hulk Hogan is.
Okay. Now, there was this. It was maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago. There was a sex tape that came out of Hulk Hogan fucking this dude's wife, this radio host, Bubba the Love Sponge. Now, this was not like everyone knew he was going to fuck the wife, and Bubba the Love Sponge knew he was going to film it secretly or something like that. It wasn't like he was cheating on anybody. Everyone agreed to this, but the video came out at some point, and the scandal was not that Hulk Hogan was fucking someone's wife. The scandal was that in their post-coital conversation, he used the N-word repeatedly. And then later, in his defense in the trial, he said that's a character he plays called Hulk Hogan, and that's not the same as Terry. Terry Bollea is one guy. Terry wouldn't talk like that. But Hulk
Hogan was a racist?
Hulk Hogan might be racist. Terry is not.
So he was claiming that he was still in character at that point. And I have
to bring this whole story to Hulk, because he actually runs a bar about 45 minutes from here in Clearwater where he lives, called Hogan's Hangout. So maybe I can be your Hulk Hogan beat reporter as well. McConaughey and Hogan. I got everything related to them.
Just drop in on their diner and get the inside scoop. Do you think that it raises an interesting question? If somebody does have two spirits, as the 2S LGBTQI plus movement claims, if one of them is a racist and the other one is not, what do you do with that? Conversion therapy?
Bring in a third spirit, and then whichever two, whether it's racist or nons, they kind of push out the other racist or non-racist spirit. That's what I would do.
If you have a Nazi as your alt inside your brain, do you punch yourself? That's the real question.
Who's your alt spirit?
Anyway, here's a that seems like a good place for a sponsor.
We live in a new age, and it's time for us to upgrade our tinfoil hats. Operation Tinfoil is a freedom-focused small business and trusted sponsor of this show. Their super comfortable new line of beanies and baseball caps will not only crown your skull in style, but each of these dome defenders is lined with a silver mesh that blocks up to 99% of EMF radiation from cell phone towers, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and yes, even 5G. We don't know what EMF radiation does to the brain long term, but neither do they, so don't be their guinea pig and don't wait around to find out. Get your stylish tinfoil hat of the future today at gettinfoil.com. Use the promo code SYSTEM for $10 off your order. Again, that's gettinfoil.com. Use the promo code SYSTEM for $10 off your order. Today's episode is sponsored by Astero's Cybersecurity Services. These days, organizations of all sizes are targets for cyber criminals, disgruntled employees, or even nation-state attackers. Astero's performs cybersecurity services, providing expert guidance to help organizations defend against threats and protect their data. Astero specializes in penetration testing, where they perform ethical hacking on networks, web apps, or organizations as a whole, to simulate what an attacker would do and plug the discovered holes before anyone malicious finds and exploits them. Asteros also specializes in vulnerability management, security awareness training, phishing simulations, cloud security audits, compliance readiness assessments, and much more. As technology expands, it becomes easier and easier to run a business, but if your security is not growing along with your company, then you're going to run into problems. If you don't personally have a company of your own, definitely pass this information along to someone who does, because for a limited time, Asteros is offering companies an attack surface audit completely free. Let Asteros discover potential entry points to your network and how susceptible your company or organization is to cyber attacks. To learn more and to take advantage of this essential offer, just go to asteros.com/free. That's Asteros, ASTEROS.com/free.
Now, speaking of hacks, cybersecurity, things like that, yes, I'm segueing out of a sponsor ad into our next story. Hunter Biden has had some security issues with his laptop, I hear. And I think we're allowed to say that now.
That's what him and I have in common.
Right, yes. That and
they're
things. Like prostitutes and cocaine and guns and stuff.
No comment. My lawyers have told me I need to refrain from affirming certain statements, but I can do like a little.
Right. There's nothing, illegal. Nothing can be used against you in court if you're just like winking and giving code. Yep.
I have no interest in hookers or cocaine or anything like that.
Right on. So Mark Zuckerberg went in a surprise interview that nobody saw coming. He went on Joe Rogan this week, and I'm sure we'll get into our thoughts on Joe Rogan. But what's really the focus here is what Mark Zuckerberg had to say about the definitely non-censoring of the Hunter Biden laptop. Here we go.
How do you guys handle things when they're a big news item that's controversial? Like there was a lot of attention on Twitter during the election because of the Hunter Biden laptop story. The New York Post.
We had that too.
Yeah, so you guys censored that as well?
So we took a different path than Twitter. Basically the background here is the FBI, I think, basically came to us, some folks on our team, and was like, hey, just so you know, like you should be on high alert. We thought that there was a lot of Russian propaganda in the 2016 election. We have it on notice that basically there's about to be some kind of dump of that's similar to that. So just be vigilant. So our protocol is different from Twitter's. What Twitter did is they said you can't share this at all. We didn't do that. What we do is we have, if something is reported to us as potentially misinformation, important misinformation, we also have this third-party fact-checking program because we don't want to be deciding what's true and false.
No.
And for
not you.
I think it was 5 or 7 days when it was basically
just the people we hired to decide,
being determined whether it was false. The distribution on Facebook was decreased, but people were still allowed to share it. So you could still share it. You could still consume it.
We just wouldn't show it.
When you say the distribution is decreased,
it got shared.
How does that work?
It basically the ranking in newsfeed was a little.
So it's like you can share it in like a Word document. It has the same value. Like you can still put it on the internet, but no, we're not going to show it to people.
You could print it out and hand it to someone.
Right.
We wouldn't prevent that.
Yeah, you can mail it if you're so inclined, but we won't let that get to them either.
But less. So fewer people saw it than would have otherwise. So it definitely.
By what percentage?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's
bullshit. Do you think there's like? Did you watch this interview? Because
at the top of my, I've only seen this clip that you.
I watched. I watched the whole 3 hours, and it is amazing how little Mark Zuckerberg knows about Facebook when it's really convenient for him to not know a thing about Facebook. But I don't know.
So which story are we supposed to believe? That he coded Facebook alone from scratch, or that he doesn't really know what goes on back there?
It depends on the day. It depends on what he's in trouble for, I suppose.
Yeah. It's meaningful, but basically, a lot of people were still able to share it. We got a lot of complaints that was the case. Obviously this is a hyper political issue, so depending on what side of the political spectrum you either think we didn't censor it enough or censored it way too much, but we weren't sort of as black and white about it as Twitter. We just kind of thought, hey, look, if the FBI, which I still view as a legitimate institution in this country, it's like very professional law enforcement.
Very professional.
They come to us and tell us that we need to be on guard about something, then I want to take that seriously.
Did they specifically say you need to be on guard about that story?
No, I don't remember if it was that specifically, but it basically fit the pattern.
I don't remember. Wow. Like the story that I just talked about for 3 minutes.
They mentioned that story?
Right.
You just said you suppressed it. Now you're not even sure if that's even the story. Wow.
If he's good at one thing, it is covering his ass and playing dumb very well.
Is he good at it, though?
We didn't say. Well, I mean, he says it in a way that a normal person would be like, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense." Like, he still let him share it. He was so like that appeases the people that were sharing it. And they're like, "Oh, yeah, he's fine."
I can see the comment responses now. Didn't you see? He said they let him share it.
Right. Exactly.
Copy and paste what he said.
And he also didn't say that the FBI. He wasn't sure if the FBI directly said to squash the Hunter Biden story, even though he just talked about it for 2 minutes about how the FBI came to him and said squash the Hunter Biden story. But I don't know. Any thoughts, Mark?
Well, my thought is that this is being shared around like it's explosive news or something like that. But really, all this is a continuation of what's been going on for at least 70 or 80 years. Operation Mockingbird or whatever you want to call it, where the CIA or other government institutions, perhaps in this case it was done via the FBI, but whatever letters are involved doesn't really fucking matter at the end of the day. The government has been controlling through various means. I don't want to say the government. That's almost too blasé of an explanation. But certain forces have been influencing both the behind the scenes, the way news is reported, what is censored, what is not. And I think most of how news has been censored over the years is much more what you're not shown than what you're shown. It's not necessarily that they lie all the time. It's that they don't give you the full context or they don't give you the real story. So I think this is just another example. It's the modern example of what's been going on for the entire history of media, the United States, probably way more further back than the United States.
Yeah.
Probably since time and propaganda and societies that controlled things existed.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you bring that up because a point that I don't remember if I made it out loud online or not, but I was thinking it this last week when this Zuckerberg story came out. I saw a bunch of people that were like I did. I shared it and just said, "Oh shit, look at this." I mean, obviously, I wasn't surprised because, duh. Like, of course, the Hunter Biden laptop story has been obviously real since the beginning, and of course, the censorship of the Hunter Biden laptop story has been very real, obviously, since the beginning as well. But I also saw a lot of people that were saying kind of what you're saying, which is like, hey, stop acting surprised. This happens all the time. But I think that there is value in still presenting it and being like, holy shit, look at this.
I'm not saying don't share it. This happens all the time. I'm just saying... And this has gone on for 70 years.
Right.
And people should understand the context of that.
I saw some people that were a little bit more aggressive with it, like, oh, you idiots. Like, how could you have not seen this? Like, yeah, but, like, some people say that about Project Veritas, too, because everything that Project Veritas puts out, it is stuff that we've all known, like people who have been, awake to this type of stuff have known for years, but they're showing it in real life in a way that, boomer generations and people who just watch CNN all day can actually digest, and showing it come out of the horse's mouth is something completely different than saying, oh, they were shadow banning people who posted about the Hunter Biden laptop story. It's like, now we have Marc Clair, we have Mark Zuckerberg saying with his own words, the FBI came to us. They told us to shut this shit down, and he can flower it up however he wants. But that is a private company. I'm a private business, bro. Colluding with the federal government to censor speech. So
I love how my favorite part is after all that he's like, and I still do believe they're a worthy institution. Obviously, like,
right.
Well, didn't you just talked about how they made you censor this story that was obviously we all know is true, even if you didn't know it was true then, which really we should have, but. Now we all know it's true. Like, it's not even disputed by the mainstream sources that it's true. And yet here, well, I still think they're a worthy institution. Of course, you just said that they made you influence the presidential election. And if you believed in regular numbers counting or whatever, that a story that could have be what cost Trump the election in a world where that legitimately occurred. I'm trying to get you off YouTube. I'm not.
I appreciate it. Yeah. And we talked about
it's the new Marc Clair. You gotta take some risks.
That's right. Yeah, he's a firebrand before he's even a brand. Now, the last night on a show that we recorded that's going to come out in the future that some people might hear, we talked about Joe Rogan, whether or not he's to be trusted. And I want to like Joe Rogan. It's like Elon Musk, where I'm like, I like you. I want to like you. But you're also a perfect package for, like, I don't know, what do you call it? Not a psyop, but like controlled opposition type individual, where they give you just enough information that you're like, oh, you're on the level, and then they have somebody on like Mark Zuckerberg for 3 hours plus and didn't really push him at all, other than, hey, did you guys censor that 100? Like, that was the hardest question that he gave Zuckerberg all night.
Gatekeeping is the word we're looking for here.
Sure,
that's what So I don't know. Did you see Rogan? It seems like you watch a lot of his shows, unless you just went out of your way for the Zuckerberg.
It's really only when like Dave Smith goes on or somebody that I know goes on.
Well, did you watch the Sam
like
Tripoli then? Is the question.
I didn't. No.
Oh, you should. It was good. I mean, I really enjoyed it, but I did tweet something tagging both of them saying it was a prime example of gatekeeping, because to me, and I say this not in a conspiratorial way necessarily, because I mean, I've met Joe Rogan. He seemed really but I mean, me meeting someone doesn't mean anything. But he seemed cool and genuine at small comedy shows I've been to, before he was even as big as he is now. And I don't think he's a secret CIA plant from the beginning. I think it's a role that you could play whether or not you realize you're playing it. So I don't even say it necessarily like he's a secret CIA asset or anything. But I think he is given access to certain people for a reason.
Yeah.
And maybe he just plays the right role, and maybe that doesn't mean it's a conspiracy. It just means he plays the right role. But in the Tripoli interview, I tweeted that, this is a perfect example of gatekeeping because gatekeeping lets the ideas creep in, but it puts out the ones that don't fit inside the box enough. I noticed he was doing that a lot talking to Tripoli. Tripoli would bring, and Tripoli you could tell was holding himself back, trying not to be super wackadoo crazy. He even said on his next podcast, he's like, look, I held back from going all into the Khazar Empire and all that stuff. So he kind of held back, but I could see even when they get into certain areas, even when they started talking about COVID, Joe would still kind of go back to the look, but we all know these guys are just doing their best. Yeah, a lot of mistakes were made, but even when he's someone that's been blasted by CNN, they made fun of him with the horse medicine stuff when they took the ivermectin, even though he got better in 2 days, and they try to take him down a peg. But again, maybe that's part of playing into his role, again, whether he means to be in the role or not, of, this is this alternative force, but he's this sort of approved alternative force. Because if he wasn't, you wouldn't even mention him on the mainstream news.
Right.
You would just ignore it. He would just be canceled. He would just be Alex Jones. He wouldn't exist. So I don't know if Joe Rogan intentionally gatekeeps, but when I hear certain interviews, whether it's with someone about COVID or what have you, I do feel like he's always trying to rein things in a little and constantly remind the listener, okay, but it's not really it's not like a conspiracy,
right.
It's not like people are just trying their best and some, people make mistakes and here we are. That's the nature of things. And he did that a lot. It really stood out to me in the Tripoli interview, maybe because Tripoli is such a contrast to him and the way he sees things. Anyway, Tripoli QT'd me and was all mad and giving me shit and calling me a loser and stuff.
Nice.
A, it wasn't I didn't word it that well. I didn't really say who was doing what, but
did you call it a cult?
Yeah. What?
Did you call it a cult like the Mises Caucus?
No, I didn't do that. I didn't go that far yet. But anyway, hopefully now Sam Tripoli knows my name and I could interview him.
There you go. Yeah, I don't necessarily fully subscribe to the, not even as much as I did in the past, of him being straight controlled opposition. But I'm sure, Mark, you can probably relate to this to some degree. When you play the peacekeeper, when you play the neutral third party that's just always, trying to make friends with people, then it kind of gets a little bit suspicious after a while once you never.
I see where you're going.
Not you in particular. I mean, Joe Rogan never. I mean, maybe you can relate to it in some aspects, but Joe Rogan seems to
I thought
he always
tying back into me being a Fed.
Yes. Obviously, you're controlled opposition. No. With Joe Rogan, even when he has these guys on and he barely pushes them, I think most realistically in my brain is he plays a very important role to certain entities, powers that be or whatever, but it's kind of just playing a dummy role, and maybe he's not you can push a little controversial in this area or whatever, but obviously don't ream Mark Zuckerberg. That would be dangerous for our brand, or who knows what kind of control or handlers this guy has. But I think his biggest downfall is that he doesn't want to be mean to people.
Isn't Rogan tied to Kevin Booth, the Bill Hicks producer, and to bring this all back to Alex Jones and Bill Hicks?
I don't know, but
well, because I do know that he was friends with Bill Hicks and is friends with Alex Jones.
Yeah, that is
and
true.
I think there was a connection to that same producer. I'm pretty sure. Anyway,
so
if you were of a conspiracy mind and you did think there was some weird stuff with Bill Hicks and Alex Jones, and you did think Joe Rogan might be some kind of thing, well, you can lump them all together and make a little story out of it if you think that.
You could. We would never do that. That'd be crazy.
We would never do that, but others could feel free to, were they to choose to do so.
That is correct. Anyway, that brings us to our next segment, which is everybody's favorite segment, called Remembering Biden.
And Corn Pop was a bigger big shot. Nazi fags. You ain't black. You're a stupid son of a bitch.
Yes, it is Remembering Biden, the segment where we remember Biden because he's not going to remember any of this, but we will want to look back on these moments, these golden moments of his presidency and remember the beauty that was the Honorable President Joseph Robinette Biden.
Right now, you can't go out and buy an automatic weapon. You can't go out and buy a cannon. And for those brave right-wing Americans who say it's all about keeping America's independent and safe, if you want to fight against the country, you need an F-15. You need something a little more than a gun. No, I'm not joking. Think about this. Think about the rationale that's used to provide this. And who are they shooting at? Shooting at these guys behind me.
I don't know what that means or who those guys behind you are, but all right.
These guys. They're like, they are? Should we run? Or?
Right. Look at the looks on their faces. Like that black guy right there is just like, wait, what? What you talking about? Better not be shooting at me. But
maybe he means metaphorically, but he's not saying it. He's talking about a cannon.
Right. Well, he was talking. Yeah. The statement is you can't buy a cannon, which I think you can legally buy a cannon. Actually, just nobody does. You can't buy an automatic rifle, which is probably also up for debate in certain areas. But he said, I mean, this whole point that he's making is you can't fight, you stupid right-wingers, you can't possibly think you're going to fight us without, like, we've got these F-15s. So some people have interpreted this as the president of the United States threatening 50% of the population with F-15s. Mark, you got any thoughts on this?
I would interpret it that way. I mean, look, the truth is, of any government, any effective one anyway, has the power to trample on their citizens at any point in time. That's kind of what makes it the government. Yeah. Whether we like that or not, it's kind of irrelevant. It's kind of what makes it the government. They're the ones that can trample on you and destroy you at any time. So, and I think a lot of people have this idea that we live in a democracy, we have representative government. So to me, the more that veil comes off and the more the truth about the nature of the situation is revealed, the better, because I think it's better for us to understand the world that we actually live in as it is. And the world
more
that we
people
live
are going to go out and buy F-15s.
Maybe, yeah. Can you buy? I think in Florida you can buy those at Walmart. So I'm going to go after this and check it out.
Sounds accurate.
Labor Day sale coming up.
Nice. If you get like a BOGO offer or anything, grab me one. I'll send you a shipping.
I will say, I was not excited about the Biden presidency, and I say that I mean from a just entertainment standpoint, whereas Trump was obviously incredibly entertaining. I'm kind of glad we got it now, especially since we're still going to get our 4 years of Trump anyway. I'm excited I'm glad that we had to go through this. We got corn pop. We got everything we saw in your promo there and so much more. And we're going to get a couple more years of deep fakes and fucking ears missing and whatever the fuck. It's been a fun time. I don't regret it at all.
No, I absolutely agree. And I've said several times, like, I love that, like, before this whole back and forth of crazy civil war that we're going through right now, there was, 8 years of Obama, and before that was 8 years of Bush, and then 8 years of Clinton. Like, we never had this, like, polar opposite, not really polar opposite, but like this pendulum swing of, like, you're Nazis, you're fascists, and like we got 4 years of Trump, then he was allegedly forcibly removed from office, and then allegedly Biden won, and so we were just seeing like this quick turnaround, and I love that it was only 4 years of Trump, and then we'll get 4 years of Biden, and then 4 years of Trump, so we can just see how shitty.
And maybe 4 more of Biden, right? Because he could do another 4. Why don't we just flip that
8 years from now, he'll be doing great. Yeah.
I'm in.
Now, which do you think would be more valuable at this point to wake people up to how much of a shit show this is? Would it be more valuable for Trump to come in 2024 to show the opposite of Biden again, or what they call the opposite, or as me and Reed Coverdale were pushing for recently, Biden 2024, and we should be pushing hardcore to get Biden back in for 2024. So they have to hold this guy up for another 4 years, and they have to own the shit that they have created.
And those are my 2 options.
Pretty much, yeah.
In this scenario,
I mean, the whole thing's rigged, so yeah.
The thing is, from a realistic standpoint, there's no chance we get 4 more years of Trump unless it's now. Yeah, and I almost think it's a necessary. It's like cutting out a cancer or something. The knife might, I don't know, this is not going to be a good analogy. The knife might not look nice and pretty, and there's going to be blood everywhere, but sometimes you just got to get in there and dig it out. And Trump is that knife in a way that needs to be stabbed further into the system to maybe see some more federalism, see some more states breaking away. I think Biden's doing it in one way, where I think Trump can do it in the other way. And yeah, I think it's time to swing the pendulum back again. We used to do 8 years, we do Democrats for 4 or 8, Republicans for 8 now. I think we should just do 4 because I think there's maybe 1 or 2 elections left that anybody sees as legitimate. I mean, you already got half the population who sees the last one as illegitimate. So now we get Trump in and we take care of the other.
And the other half thought the election before that was illegitimate. So
exactly. So we're very close to the whole system not seeming look, it's not even about legitimacy. It's just about seeing it for what it is. Right. Democracy is just the latest veil over the same system that we've always had, where the top, 10% of the 10% of the 10% runs the country, sets the rules, and sets the rules of the game. And that's true of every whatever structure we might have. So to see that more plainly shown in the public, and for people to maybe drop the veil a little bit more of, we just don't live in a representative democracy. In fact, the concept is a myth. Well, the better, I guess.
I agree. And that would have been a great segue into my next spot here, but we have some fake super chats here. Brandon Smith says, fake super chat. Current favorite conspiracy is Post Malone is Hank Jr.'s son. There's a side-by-side going around where they look stunningly similar. Interesting. I have not looked into that one. Yeah.
What about Bruno Mars being Michael Jackson's son? I'm 100%
I haven't heard that one either, but that would not be that
Start
surprising.
looking at pictures, and it'll become of them at the same age, like Michael Jackson at 20, Bruno Mars at 20.
But wait,
and then you find
Bruno Mars is black. How does that work?
His mom knew Michael Jackson around the time, much like the Trudeau situation. There is a connection. At least that's what someone told me. I didn't research that, but
yeah.
But if that's true, I'm 100% on board because they look exactly alike.
Isn't it a little too on the nose?
I thought it was an old Michael Jackson song I didn't know before. I was like, oh, they re-released the Michael. So to me, there's enough there to make me believe it 100%.
I was going to say, isn't it a little too on the nose that he came out and made like King of Pop type music if they were trying to keep it secret? But in the same right, so did Trudeau. Maybe he doesn't know.
Maybe nobody knows.
Trudeau did the same thing as his dad too. So, sometimes they can get away with it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Joey Two Guns.
Stuff like that will always stay in the realm of conspiracy anyway.
Right.
Because normies can't buy this stuff. So that's just where it's going to stay. And maybe some more people will believe it, but it's not going to matter. It's not like the CBC is going to report Justin Trudeau was definitely Fidel Castro's son. And you should all know that. And ask Brian Stelter to confirm.
Stelter. Yeah. And even if he was Fidel Castro's son, as big of a scandal as that should be, it doesn't change. Like, it doesn't make him any more or less of a monster than he currently is. So, we can focus on reality.
It is kind of a silly distraction in a way. It's like, I'm into stuff like this. Is Alex Jones Bill Hicks? Is Justin Trudeau Fidel Castro's son? Yada, yada, yada. At the end of the day, it doesn't. Well, it would matter if Alex
doesn't
Jones
keep me
Bill
up at
Hicks.
night.
that would actually matter a lot more than the Trudeau thing or the Bruno Mars thing.
Quite possibly. Joey Two Gun says, fake super chat. Downers Club should have been called Smotz Tots, and I don't know if I can forgive you for this error. Well, sorry, but you're about 6 years too late.
That's where you promised 100 inner city kids to buy all their podcast equipment when they graduate high school.
Yeah, I made that reference last week when the whole Biden college funding came out. It's just
his own Scott's Tots.
Yes. He said, 10 years ago that he was going to pay for all your college, and then he comes out and he's like, give you this laptop battery, kids.
Everyone needs a laptop, and you can't use a laptop without a battery.
Exactly.
One of my favorites.
All right. So speaking of fake things, which I had a good segue for that before we got distracted by you pieces of shit in the comments section. And it was something about fakeness. And speaking of fake things, the moon landing, Marc Clair, is in the news again for the first time in 50 years. We're going back. Yes, we're going back to the moon. And it's more important than ever, of course, for many reasons. But they tried this week. So the whole plan was Artemis 1 was going to launch earlier this week. It got canceled because they don't have the technology that we had in 1967 to put a rocket to the moon. Are they supposedly
sending humans on this?
The Artemis 1 and Artemis 2 are supposed to be non-passenger flights because we still have to test this technology from the 70s.
Right, because we've never done that before. So,
right.
Yeah.
And then Artemis 3 is supposed to carry some people there. And and then we're going to pull off the greatest achievement in mankind history, which is putting man on the moon. Mark, we've talked about this in the past. You have some thoughts, I believe, on the moon landing. Are you still awake on this moon landing thing?
I think I've become a space extremist, if anything else.
Space terrorist.
Let's see. I'm a space terrorist. I'm about, I would say, as close to 100% you can get on something without ever saying truly 100%, because I always have to leave that 0.000001 that, okay, maybe I'm wrong. I'm as close to 100% as you can get on the moon landing footage that we saw in the 60s is obviously bullshit and does not represent human beings walking on a moon.
Yeah.
I am a little more open to the idea, but not that much, that maybe there are secret moon missions and that's not what we saw in that obviously fake fucking footage with the tinfoil on the thing and people playing golf in this most dangerous environment they could possibly be in. Yeah, no, that didn't happen. What I'm not sure of is space even a place that humans or machines can even get to?
Yeah.
And then what I'm not sure of beyond that is the moon even a physical object? I'm not quite sure. So yeah, I think I'd still
level up.
Am I getting some points here?
Yes.
Now,
Achievement
in the order
unlocked.
I said those is the order of confidence I have in the questions to the statements. So more likely the moon is a physical place. But if it is, sure, there's sure as fuck is no way you can convince me that footage that we saw, that TV show, is men going to the moon, if any men have ever gone to the moon or could even go to the moon. But as you've talked about many times, and as NASA talks about today, we still got to figure out this, what do they fucking call it? The
Van Allen radiation belts. We got to figure out how to get men through the Van Allen radiation belts.
We still have to figure that out before we can send people out to space. Which I think there was like a video in 2006 where NASA said, well, yeah, we're trying to perfect how we can send humans out. So again,
as though it's new.
How could this be possible? Well, I guess you could believe the story that they lost the code. Have you seen the new one going around when they showed this picture of this girl, like Dorothy, the fucking secretary, and her pile of paper that's taller than her, that is the code? Supposedly this is the code. She typed on paper and stood next to you for a photo, and that code on those pieces of paper made that tinfoil piece of shit fly to the fucking moon and do a Zoom call better than any call, better than the quality
from a
of
landline
this call we've been on today, and I'm plugged hard into the Ethernet right now. So no, I don't believe that at all. That's obviously bullshit. Now, why do they continue all of this? Oh, there are a lot of theories as to why that is. I think probably the more obvious, less conspiratorial one is just money. And NASA was founded by satanic Nazis, so why wouldn't they continue to lie and do satanic Nazi shit?
Nazi fags.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a great time.
I didn't say that was Biden. Yeah. So
Joe, calm down.
I definitely agree with you on if there's any conspiracy theory that I can point to and go as close to 100% as possible, this one, yeah. And
I think I'm more sure of that than any one theory about JFK.
Sure.
Maybe JFK was killed by Harvey Oswald. Maybe he wasn't. I'm more sure that the moon was fake than any one individual JFK theory.
Yeah. I mean, just the idea that the United States of America, at a time where we really needed a morale boost, and JFK had said that we were going to put a man on the moon by the end of this 10-year span, and then right at the end of that 10-year span, under Nixon, we sent, I think, 3 to the moon, 3
just
rockets to the moon.
Just fake
Right.
That's how I picture it going. Sir, we just can't do it. Like 20 people have died in explosions, like getting ready for this. Like, just fucking fake it. Call Kubrick.
He did it. He did it already. I like how your Nixon is very similar to an Alex Jones. They're probably the same amount of credibility, but
coincidence.
Yes. So
what about Alex Jones is Richard Nixon's son, and so is Bill Hicks, and they're brothers, and that explains the similarity, but still lets them be separate.
They're
people.
twins.
Boom.
They're twins. Anyway, yeah, I think there's a lot of
frogs are not gay. The frogs are gay.
Nixon talking about gay frogs. I like it. Gay frogs at Bohemian Grove or something. Now, with this, there's a lot of issues with the official moon landing. And as I was saying, like the fact that, or quote unquote fact that we did it 3 times and then we stopped doing it completely because Americans
or
are
12
known
if
for
you're JB Lubin and you don't know
exactly.
It's a reference to a show that hasn't actually happened yet. Podcast
right.
Time Warp.
That's right. So we did it just a handful of times, just a couple of times, and then we said, not only are we not going to do it again for 50 plus years, we're going to throw away the technology, we're going to throw away the documentation, we're going to throw away all this documentation because their reasoning, because we're not a storage facility, a library, or a museum. That's
So
why
we
they
should
threw
just
away
go with it.
mankind's greatest achievement. Why
what
would
they
we
say
ever
now?
need this? Well, I mean, is it not? Would it not be mankind's greatest achievement to?
No, I mean, is that what they say about the reason they don't have it?
Oh yeah,
Those are
that's
not the rules of this facility.
Yep. Just too many papers around here to leave these lying around. But the crazy thing about that is, you know who would have loved to have those documents? A library, a museum, like anybody, anybody.
All those things you named, a storage
Right.
facility of some kind.
Yeah, even a storage facility would have taken them. Shit. Not
The whole thing. I mean, the whole moon story. It doesn't add up at all if you just spend 10 minutes not living.
No
in
other
by
country either has
someone
bothered.
No.
Like,
I mean,
we were in the
now
space
there
race, and
are-
all the other
there
countries
are
were just
these-
like, well, we might as well just give up forever.
There are all these countries with probes and stuff, and I'm skeptical of the probes as well, to be honest. I'm kind of skeptical of all of it. But maybe there's really machines that go up there. I don't know. But why is no one sending humans then?
Right.
If we can do it so fucking easily 50 years ago.
Yeah.
You think that the fucking Chinese don't want some fucking... I almost said something racist, probably. Don't want one of their guys up there dancing around and putting a flag up, putting a little hammer and sickle up there? Come on.
Yeah.
Or that's the... Do they have a hammer and sickle on the China flag, too? Am I just thinking of
I don't think
80s era Soviet Union for some reason?
I mean, they may as well. Sure.
Whatever.
I'll say yes. Yeah, I don't know. But what's more important than all of that, let's set that all aside and just focus on, the positives of now. Sorry, that's the respect that this deserves. Now we are going to not just put a man back on the moon 50 years later. We're going to put more than that. Much, much more than any man, because we're going to put first woman
A black
on the moon.
lesbian?
Yes. Artemis. This is their own Twitter handle or own
don't
Twitter
even
page.
follow her. That's so sad.
No, I don't. With Artemis at NASA, we'll land the first woman and first person of color on the moon. Take the next giant leap. But that is
that the
their
same person?
only description. This is the blue check page for the Artemis project.
This is NASA Nazis gone woke. That's all this is.
Yep. Yeah, they're very concerned, much more importantly than, why we haven't done this or how to do it or why we can't get this rocket off the ground. Because, again, they failed earlier this week. They're probably going to fail again Saturday, or they'll figure out some sort of way to do it.
Hashtag space bubbles.
Space what?
Space bubbles.
Space bubbles. Yeah.
You know about hashtag space bubbles, right?
Oh, yes, of course. I thought you said space balls. I know about that, too. But
space
yeah.
balls are more real than space bubbles or something.
Something. We're going to put black ladies on the moon. All right, let's watch this, and then we'll wrap this up. Of course, it won't play, so we'll probably get to watch an ad here.
Let's do live commentary on this ad.
U.S. Cellular, check out this bag. Oh, wow, that's a nice bag. Good bag.
Hey,
oh,
you can get free phones. Free
oh,
phones.
shit, look
You have
at
to be
these
a woman
pictures.
Of color? It
Oh,
helps.
look at it. New current customers. Any phone, any brand, free.
Free folk phones.
U.S. Cellular. All right, here's the thing. Thank you.
In educating us about science and math, Channel 9's Alexa Lorenzo explains this mission is also sending an important message about diversity and inclusion.
Artemis 1 leads to Artemis 2, which leads to Artemis 3 when we hope to have
Makes
humans on the
sense.
surface of the moon.
At this point, we don't know who will take those fateful steps. Right now, there are 42 active
It's like
astronauts.
it's like a Biden statement. We don't know who it's going to be, but we do know it's going to be a woman of color. It's like,
We
all
don't
right.
know who's the most qualified yet. We just know that they're a black lesbian.
Right.
10 candidates. Reed Wiseman is the chief astronaut at NASA Johnson, and he knows whomever walks on the moon's surface will bring the hopes and dreams of the next generation, looking to follow in their footsteps with them.
When I think about Apollo, I think about every kid that watched that landing and wanted to work in mission control, that wanted to be an astronaut, that wanted to be a doctor, that wanted to be a school teacher. Like the impact.
Wait.
And then they get
Doctors
there
and
and you're
school
like, all
teachers?
right, jump in this pool. You're like, I thought we were doing space. They're like, yeah, we start in the pool.
Welcome to
Jump
NASA.
in
You
the
could be a
pool.
doctor and a school teacher. What do these things have to do with each other? I'm confused as to your list, sir. But yes, get in. Take it off and get in the pool, kids. You can be an astronaut now.
The fact of what Apollo did was not putting Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin on the moon. It was changing the way we look at STEM completely.
And NASA leaders say it's time for young women to see themselves represented in Artemis.
This mission to me, professionally, I'm very excited and proud, but I also personally, I have 3 kids, 2 of which are daughters. And so when I talk to them about we're going to send a woman to the moon, they can't even understand but there hasn't been one. Like, it's like, so they grow up in an environment where things are just so much more diverse and inclusive.
Now, the point that she's missing there is that not only has a woman not gone to the moon by now, but nobody else since the first dudes went. Like, it's not like they make it sound like, I can't believe
People
a woman
are
hasn't
going
gone.
all the time.
Right.
All these white dudes are always going to the moon every fucking week. Rich white men just living it up.
Yeah.
Having margaritas on the moon. No, none of this has been happening.
Right. It's like back then there were a couple of guys that went, and then we stopped going completely. It's not like we've been going this entire time,
Like,
and
this
we've
is
just
a
been
resounding
excluding you.
success. Let's never do it again.
Right.
So absolutely, to me, from a professional, but also from a very personal standpoint, I think it's a huge, huge deal that we've made this a very big focus of this mission for both women and people of color.
We want every kid in America to look at our poster and say, oh, I see myself in that. I grew up poor, or I grew up in this
They have
state.
to wear
or
masks
I grew
in
up with
space?
this type of
Yeah, they're afraid of COVID. But once they're on the shuttle, I'm sure there's great ventilation, and
I think I can't wait for the video of this woke like black lesbian going to space, and they're gonna zoom in on her face, and you're gonna see the mask underneath the space. I can't wait.
just to be safe.
family.
If it saves one life,
I can do that someday, and it's really important for all of us to stand together as we go and do this.
Alexa Lorenzo.
It's almost like they're like, please don't pay too close attention on the fact that we are just now going back to the moon because we're doing something new and exciting, which is going to the moon isn't new and exciting.
Hey, guess what? 50 years have gone by. We're going back to the moon, everybody. Remember, you've been waiting for this. But that's the thing. Like, I mean, this came out kind of like even JB on the podcast that hasn't even aired yet. He was like, "What? They went like 12 times." I mean, like, no, that
Not
that
even.
never happened.
Not even
anywhere close to that. But I think in the conscious of the public, however they do this propaganda, it's effective enough that most people think we just go to the moon like all the time. Like,
Right.
This is what we just go. We're going back and forth. Or it's going
Why
out there,
wouldn't
they're
we?
grabbing stuff. They're digging things. They're putting down plans. They're playing golf. Like, no, this is not. They don't even say that's been happening. That's,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
if they said it was happening, I'd be skeptical. But they don't even say it's been happening.
And the biggest pushback I've gotten to that is always like, well, why would they send them back up? Once we're there, like, there's nothing there. There's no reason to go back. It's like, yes, because science never like runs anything into the ground or, takes taxpayer dollars and just plays with it for fun. I mean, the shit that NASA is doing on the ground, a lot of that's probably pretty worthless too. So I'm not buying it. Anyway.
It's the highway to nowhere. If we accept that, we can accept moon rockets to nowhere.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? You got any predictions for Saturday? Their second attempt at sending this up?
So there's this, and then there's supposed to be another, and if those go well, they're going to put people on them.
Well, I think there's still an Artemis 1. Artemis 1 was supposed to launch on like Monday or Tuesday, and it failed, and they're going to try Artemis 1 again. After Artemis 1 goes, if that's a success, they're going to do Artemis 2.
You want a
Artemis
prediction?
3 is going to have lesbians.
I'll give you a prediction. We get to the one with the lesbians, and they blow it up. Challenger over again. And that's why we have to further fund the space program, because we were so close to getting that fucking lesbian in space, and then the whole thing blew up. We're at a tragedy. We got the family members on TV. We got people crying. We'll show pictures of her that'll look strangely like pictures of the same person from an explosion 10 years ago. We'll all move on.
Yeah, that was actually my prediction, like, I don't know, 2 years ago or something, when they first started talking about sending people back up. I was like, they're going to try it, or they're going to pretend to try it. They're going to blow them up, and then they're going to set us back. Like, that just takes the whole...
They're going to be, this is too risky. That's why
Right.
we haven't gone for the last 50 years.
Yeah, it takes the whole, why aren't we doing this narrative off the table, because this is why it's too dangerous. We've never done it before. It's crazy.
Anyway, let's go to Mars.
Yep. Yeah. Simultaneously talking about going infinitely further with humans. But that we're going to wrap it up there and move over into the after party with some more spiciness. We're going to talk about some I don't know, some IP libertarian talk, which I'm sure Mark will love. But it's going to be in an entertaining way.
Is this a flashback to the first episode of Lions of Liberty?
Yes, it is. But with a lot of strange new developments in IP that I find personally amusing. Mark, before we do that, tell everybody where they can find you, your Substack, and the nothing else that you have going on.
Well, the best places to to find updates on what I'm doing are, I'd say, Twitter at Marc D. Clair, as you will no longer see displayed there. So let's go to Substack at Substack, markclair.substack.com, as you do see displayed there. My Twitter at Marc D. Clair. Also, if you go and subscribe, now a lot of your Lions of Liberty fans subscribe to the Lions of Liberty Network feed. We also have our individual show feeds. If you go and subscribe to the individual feed of mine called Lions of Liberty with Marc Clair, not only will you hear the 600th episode that we've referred to a couple times here, if you stay subscribed to that feed, that's where you will find the Marc Clair Show in some amount of time. I'm going to say 3 to 4 weeks as a guess. It won't be a tremendous amount of time, but it's not going to be a week later. I'm going to take a little time to get things right. So that's what I would do. You should follow me in those places and not follow me at my house. And Second Print Pod, secondprintcomics.com if you want to hear me and a young Latino Christian boy talk about comic books each and every week. You want to subscribe to the Second Print Comics podcast where we do just that.
Sounds like you hired some I don't know, illegal immigrant to do your podcast with you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened. Yeah.
I mean that. Yeah.
He needed the work. I could afford it. It worked out.
I'm familiar. I've hired him a time or two as well. Before we go, Joey Two Guns says, fake super chat. It makes sense now. They don't give a fuck about the radiation because they're sending women and minorities now. So we'll wrap it up there on a happy note. Thank you guys.
Well, it makes sense. They're trying to sterilize everybody. So send the women up, sterilize them, and then fuck soy boys.
Yeah, there have been these articles about you don't want women getting pregnant in space. So is it just going to be women? I mean, if they're all lesbian women of color, then I guess we'll be safe.
But everybody can get pregnant, and anybody can get someone pregnant, so it doesn't add up.
I don't know. I've lost count. Somewhere between the two.
Two times LGBTXCI plus divided apostrophe.
That's right. All right, guys. That's going to be it. Thank you for tuning in, and come join us in the after party over at patreon.com/thesystemsdown. We're going to kick that off here in about just 5 minutes or so, and whatever happens there happens there. It gets weirder, gets more offensive and lazy. I don't know. But come hang with us. Patreon.com/thesystemsdown. That link should have went out just a couple, 2 hours ago or something. But thank you for being here. Thanks for kicking it. And we'll see you probably tomorrow morning for 2 Scoops. I got to remember that. That's the real 2S in life. 2 Scoops tomorrow morning with Craig at 7 o'clock. So until then, question everything, stay uncomfortable, and we'll see you then. Bye.
Welcome to the system. Everyone's a victim. Doesn't matter if you're black or white, it hates you all. Here is how the system. Violence is a symptom. Fighting for what's right, but somehow everyone is wrong. Dun, 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 dun.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe on your way out and help us change the world one uncomfortable conversation at a time. And if you like what you hear and you want to hear more, go join the Downers Club at patreon.com/thesystemsdown for bonus episodes of the show every single week. Until next time, please continue to question everything, stay uncomfortable, and I'll talk to you then. Thanks.
This has been a Goulash Media production. GoulashMedia.net.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.